Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. About a couple hours ago, the entire crypto market started plummeting in price yet again. Crash round two, I guess, a couple days in a row here now. Maybe it's bottomed at this point locally. We'll see. You guys are future people. You know more about price development than I do. But XRP just an hour ago got as low as $2.98. And for anybody who's curious, I'll note that it is now 12:09 a.m. Central Time as I record this, so it's now Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. XRP currently at $3.01. Bitcoin at 115,424 bucks. Although Bitcoin did drop as low as, what would it get to? So yeah, it was about an hour ago. Yeah, 11:10 p.m. Look at this. It got down to 114,735 bucks. Does this mean that we should be fearful? Obviously not. It absolutely does not mean that. Look, there's a possibility we can go a little bit lower. You might have to chop a little bit more sideways. I'm going to share with you perspective from a ton of different analysts, but the overall message is it doesn't make sense to be fearful. It makes sense to be very excited here. In fact, one popular chart analyst, I'd say is one of the best out there, is chart analyst Credible Crypto. And he's been a big fan of XRP for a long time, but he doesn't regularly talk about it necessarily. Every now and then he will, and then if there's a lot of action, of course, we'll talk about it more consistently. But he said that he thinks XRP is gearing up for its next leg. Despite, think about that, he's saying this at a time, and you know what price action happened yesterday. You don't live in a cave, right? You know about that. You know about what's happening right now. And even with that being the context, he's like, yeah, it looks like it's really gearing up. This is looking fantastic for XRP. Really good stuff here, folks. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And you know what's so fascinating is, just going through my feed, I see all sorts of people sharing things on X, posts from various analysts who I'm not necessarily familiar with, and there's no shortage of perspective saying the top's in. That's the end of this bull cycle. It's done. Bitcoin's going to be plummeting from here. That seems to be the majority opinion. So you know what's interesting is that none of the chart analysts that I choose to follow believe that. Literally none. In fact, there's only one analyst I follow who says that the Bitcoin top is in, but even that analyst is calling for just a monstrous alt season, including for XRP specifically. So just be careful who you listen to out there, because the crowd's typically wrong, and crappy chart analysts are a dime a dozen, and you can easily get scared if you listen to them, and they're gonna be wrong. They just are. And I don't say that, I don't literally know that for sure, but we're talking in terms of probability. And this is not how tops have ever been put in for the crypto market. We are not seeing the sirens blaring. Like, it's not happening. The alarm system, it's not happening right now. Here's a post from the great Matsby. This is the crypto total market cap, the entire asset class on your screen here. And he said, if you are expecting a crypto dump, you might be waiting a while. Breakout and backtest of the ARC is a very bullish look for total. And by the way, I will say this too, just to be clear. All sorts of analysts I follow acknowledge we could go lower. Like even Credible Crypto the other day I highlighted is like, it's possible you could even get into like the upper 90,000s before, like even that wouldn't change what happens on a higher time frame in terms of chart structure. But then you would take off afterwards. It's just that this is normal stuff in crypto. That's the point. Not that we can't go a bit lower, but it's not the end of the world even if we do, right? I mean, I don't know about you folks, my net worth is so much higher than just 1 year ago. Like it's already life-changing. Like how could you not be excited if you've been in crypto for like more than 5 seconds? You know, it doesn't make sense to me. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Wizard. This is a Bitcoin price chart. And he says, bears, you're right. It's time to panic. Bitcoin can collapse. Once Bitcoin gives up this support, it's going to collapse to $131,500. Patience pays. And of course, he's just having a little fun with this, making fun of the bears, because this Bitcoin chart with showing that Bitcoin price is heading down, that's because it's inverted. So the lower you go on this chart, the higher the price for Bitcoin. He is not fearful. He's making fun of the stupid analysts out there that don't know what the hell they're talking about, all the silly bears. Here's another one from Crypto Wizard. Now this one actually is going down and you'll love to see it. This is the market cap Bitcoin dominance percentage chart. And this thing, like when this thing starts going historically, that is when alt season happens, and we've already seen it begin, but you're going to see a much more precipitous drop than we've seen to this point. And so as he posted this in the afternoon on Monday, Bitcoin dominance is 59.72%, down from a more recent high of, I think, close to like 66%. So it's already started. It certainly started. But here he said, down she goes. Down she goes. There's more to come. The bear flag breakout triggered the next decline in Bitcoin dominance, exactly as called. As soon as 59% breaks, the collapse will speed up. Patience pays. So all we got to do is nothing. Literally nothing. We can just sit back, let time do the heavy lifting, and eventually this thing absolutely, the entire market will be ripping. Here's a post from Credible Crypto. I'm going to share this one with you first about Bitcoin, and then we've got the, I'd say, more exciting one having to do with XRP. But yeah, he thinks things are going. Like, they're about to really rocket it. Sooner than later, anyway. So here's what he had to say about Bitcoin, though, because it does lead the market. So he says, and this is in the afternoon on Monday. He said, so far, so good, with a test of our range lows as expected. And so, folks, he's not surprised by what's happened, the crash yesterday, where I made the video trying to calm some people down because people freaking out on social media. He knew that there's a very distinct possibility that was going to happen. All of this is normal. It's fine. So when he says this, though, check this out. If that was our local bottom, there are a couple variations to the original idea that just include a bit more sideways price action within the range below before the impulsive expansion. And we will know how likely these scenarios are based on how we move up off this low, impulsive or corrective move up. In any case, our main area of interest is at $114,000 to $116,000 has now been tagged, and ideally we can push up to $120,000 plus from here to solidify this as a local bottom. Okay, so we haven't deviated even lower, at least at the time I'm recording this. I know crypto happens fast, and you guys, like I said, you're future people. You're listening to past Moon Nambo. But we, at least at the time I'm recording this, we haven't dropped below the level that he's talking, so this still could be the bottom. That would be perfectly normal and fine in his estimation. Here's an XRP ETH chart from Credible Crypto. I love this. It's weird because, like, I think we all know how this story ends ultimately. Not with all the specifics, but over the time, we don't know exactly where XRP is going to peak, but we know the movie ends with XRP this market cycle just melting faces. I'm just curious as you guys as to when it's going to happen, but man, XRP's been showing ridiculous strength ever since the election. So anyway, here he says, chart 1, XRP ETH has hit my downside area of interest, also mid-range, after a 3-month correction that followed a 700% rally off of range lows. And folks, I was talking about the high probability of this happening because it's just, you don't have to be a chart guy, it's just common sense. ETH was priced ridiculously, unreasonably low at about $1,400 just months ago. And of course it wasn't going to stay down there. The fundamentals weren't any worse than they were last cycle, you know? So it's just silly to think that low price means it's good. No, of course it was going to come back. And it has. It's come back with a vengeance, getting close to a new all-time high since then. So of course, XRP, given that it was consolidating after its major run earlier this year, yeah, of course, it fell against Ethereum, but it was just ranging against the dollar. Well, now he's saying here that it's in the area of interest. And you can see the green bar if you're looking at the screen that he's talking about here. We're there. What do you think happens, folks? Because I'll tell you this, XRP has already destroyed Ethereum this market cycle in terms of performance, but it is not done. It's going to get way worse. I mean, I say good, but way worse for anybody who despises XRP and is an ETH maxi, for instance. And then here we have chart 2, XRP USD chart. It says XRP USD is now in its 9th month of consolidation above the highest monthly close in its history. And you'll love to see that, that's for damn sure. And then chart 3 on your screen here, this is an ETH USD chart. He says ETH USD is approaching a prior all-time high after completing a clean 5-wave move off of $2,100 and is likely due for some consolidation as it corrects this completed impulse. Yeah, and so that would also make sense. It's had a big move here, a little bit of consolidation. There's going to be time for XRP to run probably sooner than later. So here's the actual conclusion that he came to. He wrote, when you put all this together, it suggests we are getting closer to the next period of outperformance on XRP against ETH. Both Bitcoin and XRP spent months consolidating at prior all-time high before continuing their expansion. This makes sense because prior all-time high after a severe bear market is a logical place for holders to start locking in some gains. Meanwhile, Ethereum is now approaching its own prior all-time high for the first time, and that too after completing a clean 5-wave impulse. It is logical to assume, then, that it may take some time around these levels to consolidate and digest the move before continued expansion. Meanwhile, XRP is wrapping up its 9th month of consolidation at prior all-time high, and is likely gearing up for its next leg sooner rather than later. The confluence of the XRP ETH chart at support/mid-range adds to the idea that XRP may be gearing up for its next impulse while Ethereum may be cooling off from its last. It's almost time to zerp it, XRP. And so, even with the most recent pullback that has occurred in the last couple hours and what happened last night, do you see how, like, seasoned chart analysts, they don't get down and scared about that? They get excited. They recognize, oh, okay, we've hit a target area. This is good. This makes logical sense. Based on how charts tend to play out, we can just blast off from here. See how they don't freak out? Like, it does not make sense to me. It makes sense to be excited here, folks. So this is happening. Now, it doesn't, again, I'll say again, doesn't mean that price can't go lower in the short term. All I'm saying is that even if the price is lower and you're watching this, even if it goes lower, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. It definitely doesn't matter, because what's normal in a bull market, and that's not going to change the odds of us having a face melt season for XRP. That won't do anything. You would have to, like, Credible Crypto, what did he say? In order for this entire structure to be invalidated, didn't he say, I'm pulling from memory, so I could be off on the number, but I thought he said Bitcoin would have to drop below like $74,000. So we're nowhere near that, folks. Even if you get into the upper 90s, like, what are you even talking? It's not breaking anything. It's just people emotionally responding, if so. Here's a post from chart analyst Casey Trades. It says XRP reaches $2.96 support perfectly. What's next? As expected, XRP dropped into the 382 retracement at $2.96. We even got a wick to $2.94, subwave at 618 target, that quickly reclaimed the major $2.96. This is exactly the kind of behavior we want to see at a market bottom. Wouldn't you know it, folks? Chart analysts who don't suck recognize that even though they can't promise this is the bottom for sure, and Credible Crypto thinks it could be, Casey Trades thinks that it could be, that would be normal. And it's at the same time everybody loses their mind and gets fearful. And I was actually thinking this afternoon, because like when I put out that video, and I'll do this like anytime if there's fear in the market, because people need to like calm down a little bit. So I put out that video last night trying to ease the fear. And I was just thinking, it's like, that's the same message that I was delivering when people were fearful when XRP would fall. It could have been from like 30 cents to 20 cents. It's the same thing I was saying back then. Here we are sitting above $3. We're not 20 or 30 cents anymore when I was making videos trying to calm people back then. Now we're above $3. It's the same thing, because people gonna people, you know. Humans are biological robots, and people, I mean, on an individual level, you can grow and change, but on the whole, there's always going to be people responding to this stuff. I just find it kind of silly. You're fearful when XRP is now above $3. It's totally vindicated. It's got regulatory clarity. The fundamentals have never been stronger. It's never been more obvious that XRP is an early winner of the crypto space, and you're concerned because the market went down, which it always does from time to time and has, and we've got 16 years worth of crypto data showing that's pretty normal. We got, about 12 years worth of XRP trading data saying, yeah, it's just normal. This stuff happens. Market moves in tandem. I don't know. Sometimes it just strikes me in a certain way. Anyway, and then Casey Trade says, on the RSI, we've got bullish divergence on the 15-minute and 1-hour RSI, and the wave down printed a clean 5 waves. This adds to the idea that this was the bottom the market was hunting. XRP may linger or retest $2.96, while Bitcoin finishes its move to $112,000 support. This is a great example of why I analyze each asset to its own chart. XRP already reached and is holding support. Bitcoin hasn't. XRP does not mirror Bitcoin here. Bitcoin can make a new local low, while XRP does not. From these support lows across the market, I expect things to turn exciting and bullish. Bitcoin plan is from $112,000 support. A wave 2 bounce toward $120,000 to $122,000 without making a new high. Wave 2 remains valid unless a new high prints. During that Bitcoin wave 2, I'm watching the pattern for a corrective ABC, not an impulsive 5 wave. I'm expecting XRP and other large caps to push to new highs, targeting $4.80 plus. So we're looking at XRP in price discovery, getting into that face melty stuff finally. Not that it would peak there, but even sooner than later, she's talking about $4.80 per XRP. The structure of Bitcoin's Wave 2 should help our confidence. A corrective on Bitcoin while impulsive upside resumes on XRP. XRP hit and held its $2.96 382 with a textbook bottom, wick down, bodies holding support, bullish divergences on 15-minute/1 hour, and a complete 5 down into the level. Bitcoin likely needs one more small exhausted low to $112,000 to finish wave 1/A. That does not mean XRP must make another low. Once Bitcoin starts its corrective wave 2, I'm looking for XRP to take off and press towards, again, he says here, $4.80. So there's 2 analysts that think that there's a very reasonable chance XRP has more or less bottomed here. So they can't know for sure, but just based on how these types of things play out, not looking too shabby here. Here's a post from chart analyst Dom. This is an XRP US oil chart. And here he wrote, and by the way, this is from Monday morning. He says, I don't see a reason to get worried about further upside unless XRP falls back into its 7-month range against oil. That would be a major red flag. But for now, chop city with 10% lower to move down. And you can see how much, so you can see the range he's talking about down here. And you can see where it is right now, safely above it at this particular moment. And this chart's interesting because for, vast majority of this year, this chart has led what happens with XRP USD. So then there was also the blockchain backers most recent video. And he pointed out a number of things. So, we're at key resistance levels. He cited specifically for Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, and the entire crypto asset class. So like the total chart. And he just noted, like, of course, these charts move in tandem, right? They just do. So we're waiting for a clean break on multiple charts. And it just seemed to me like, my words, not his, it's more a question of when this is going to happen, not if. He acknowledged it's possible we could finally have that final parabolic break for Bitcoin here. If everything starts behaving, it's possible. But no way to know for sure. We might have to consolidate a little bit further, but it's certainly coming. So once you break above these levels, that's when everything gets nutty. That's still coming. Again, every several years, roughly, this is what happens. There's no reason to think that this would be different. And there are real, legitimate reasons as to why this happened, which is why I have in-depth conversations about global M2. As liquidity increases, that wealth has got to go somewhere, folks. It ends up in risk-on assets, like in the stock market and in crypto. It just does. And you know what's been happening with global M2 if you've been watching this channel. It's been at record highs, folks. So anyway, by the way, he also mentioned that Bitcoin dominance, and I see this from every analyst, so I'm just noting it's true. He noted that Bitcoin dominance is very weak right now, which is what you want for the altcoin market. That is what you want. It's happening. Here's a post from chart analyst Galaxy. It says, looks like XRP needs a little more consolidation around $3. Nothing wrong about this. Chart looks healthy. We just broke out of a smaller symmetrical triangle after breaking out of a 2,500-day symmetrical triangle. Interesting time. So another analyst saying, actually, things are looking pretty damn good at this point, despite the pullback. Because when he posted this, that was after the crash had already started. Here's a post from chart analyst Javon Marks, and this is from Monday morning, after the crash, of course. He said, XRP still above $2.47, so that's a key level he's watching. So he says here, this means that $4.80 is the current target, and that another 60% move to reach it can take place. So we just crashed, and you're seeing that there are a bunch of bullish chart analysts that I follow who have great track records. Do not be fearful here, folks. It just doesn't make sense to be scared here. And that's also the same price point that Casey Trades is saying to watch for, $4.80. It's kind of fascinating. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. He says, if you are a spot holder, All you need to care about is XRP holding the weekly support. Everything else is noise. And he didn't cite these specific levels. So XRP is $3.06 when he posted this in the evening on Monday. But the level he's talking about here, that'd be this orangish yellowish bar. I guess it's maybe slightly more orange. Anyway, that looks like it's probably, I wish he had labeled it, maybe like $2.95, maybe $2.96, somewhere around there anyway. But everything's fine. Again, key takeaway here, nothing's wrong. Not a single analyst that I follow thinks there's something wrong with the crypto asset class, with Bitcoin specifically, or with XRP specifically. And I would share that news with you. Even if you're bad, I absolutely would be screaming it on this channel. If that's what all the analysts are saying that I follow, I just want you to know whatever's true. Doesn't exist, folks. It just doesn't. Here's a post from XForce Global. He says, XRP, support should be at $2.50 before we blast off. So I don't think he's actually saying that we have to hit $2.50. He's talking about a key level, which is not far off from, who cited that? Was it, I just showed you a second ago. Was it Javon Marks? Yeah, it was Javon, actually. Anyway, pretty close. Splitting hairs. Here's a post from eGreg Crypto. He says, XRP macro range $2.65 to $3.65. Technical analysis is all about interpreting data and historical patterns. When certain indicators change, we must adjust our perspective without losing sight of the macro picture. Right now, if XRP closes below $2.90 on the 4-hour time frame with full body candle, we could be fulfilling a 5-wave structure, potentially heading down to $2.65. By the way, just note, he's not saying that's the end of the world if that happens. Says to start feeling bullish, we need to reclaim the $3 mark. And so he posted this in the morning. Obviously, we did. XRP got up to $3.10 on Monday. And then, as I've shown you, just a little bit down. And he says $3.13 would be another major milestone to consider. $3.20, he says closing here, will give us more confidence in the upward move. $3.45 says at that level we'll be gearing up for a new all-time high. And at $3.65, you know the drill, he says. This is the level to watch. Yeah, exactly, because that's the all-time high. And once we get above that big bad boy, whew, off to the races, my friend. So as I'm wrapping up the video here, we're sitting at $3.02. So hopefully it's higher by the time you're watching this, but if not, again, I'll just say one last time in this video, it does not matter. Everything is fine. Everything is absolutely fine. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.